Hey, London, how are you doing?
I'm well. Tameka, how are you?
Good, good. Long time no see in person. Well, this
That's
isn't quite
right.
in person, but I get to see your face.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I know I've followed you and and all your success over the years, and I'm happy for you. And it's good to see friends, old friends that we've and colleagues or peers just doing such great things. So I'm so happy for you, and I'm happy to be doing this.
Well, I more than return those sentiments. In fact, let's just get into all of your success that is happening. You got three books that have come out within like 3 months of one another. But
Yeah.
today we're going to talk about this one.
Yeah.
When I London, when I first saw this book, just the cover, I was like, oh man, I know I'm going to love this book. This is going to be one of the books of 2023. And it did not disappoint.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful,
Thank you so
gorgeous.
much.
I need the backstory.
Um,
How did you come to be involved in this project?
Well, it's going to harken back a few years ago to when I was in grad school, and it was in 2020, spring, no, probably winter, like late winter 2020, just as the pandemic was starting to really start to kind of jump off.
Mm.
And I was in grad school, and I had this class project where we had to do a children's book. But I didn't want to do a children's book. I'm in grad school to learn and grow. And I started to develop like a way of working that kind of stepped away from my previous life as an illustrator, where you were like the king all the way to Midnight Teacher. So it was a very acrylic based, very realistic, tightly rendered. But I started to tire of that look because I just felt like it wasn't the truest essence of me. So going back to grad school, I really kind of tackled a new way of expressing my work, much as you can see back there with some of those pieces,
Mm-hmm.
much more colorful, energy, really tapping into African American life, but yeah, Black life.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say
Mm-hmm.
Black life because I want to try my have my work kind of go beyond the borders. I just want to feel. So instead of doing a children's book and play the safe route, I was like, well, let me tackle poetry because that's something that I've always admired poetry because I you read poetry, but you just there's so many levels of depth in
Yeah.
poetry. So I decided to go. I bought a, a Langston Hughes book. So I just went through and I started to get up ideas to do poetry based on his. I mean, to illustrate on his poetry, and it's
Mhm.
just what got me about his poetry is just how transcended to now it is.
Mm.
You know, when you look at like My People, like
Mm-hmm.
what you see in the five heads right there, that one of the early pieces, Life is Good, which is a powerful poem. And then there's Mother to Son. All right. And so I started to create these illustrations, but I was using this more mixed media style of cutting paper, of being a lot more expressive.
Mm.
So when I was working on those, the professor of the class, I wasn't going to post them. I was going to wait to post all of my work when I finished grad school.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, no, you should start posting this now. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
post it now. You never, just get it out there. And I was scared because I was like, I didn't feel like it was ready. Shared it
Mm-hmm.
with my agent. She was just like, you're on to something. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what it is, but you're
Mm-hmm.
on to something. Just keep doing what you're doing. So then I started posting it.
And I remember when you started posting those images they were very different from,
Mhm.
your books that you'd done in the past. I remember that.
Yeah. So then I got the attention of Denene Millner, who we worked together years ago on a book, where she ghost wrote this book that I did. And so she reached out and she was just like, what is this? And then we talked on the phone briefly. I explained the project and she was just like, okay, I'm going to try to find something for you.
Mm.
A little while later, like months later, weeks later, she sends me a message via Instagram, like with a link to You So Black.
Mhm.
She was like, I want you to illustrate this. I just got to go get clearance from the poet. And that's how and then it just kind of sat dormant. So then I had like, I signed up to do Black Gold, and I started doing other projects. And then when this one rolled around, that's how the origin started of just getting the project. But because of a meeting that I had with Denene and the creative team, and what Denene envisioned, to hear her voice and hear her passion and love of storytelling, and why she melded Theresa and the poet and me into this project. I mean, I just never forget. She just said this one phrase that just stuck, and I don't know if I can say it because the way she said it was just so profound. She just basically said, "I want a Black book. I want the blackest black book.
Yeah.
I want it gritty.
Blackety black. That's probably what she said. Blackety black.
Yep. And she said, I want it gritty. I want it different from anything out there." And that was, to me, that was like a call to arms in a way.
You delivered. You both delivered. I mean, I know that the poem was already in existence, but as an art form, this picture book, you all delivered. It is blackety black.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you said something, and I want you to elaborate on it a little bit about when this book, the manuscript for it, how it touched you in a different way, even from the other projects. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What about it touched you? And so,
well, the power of it was the YouTube video. To see and hear it, and every time I heard it, it gave me goosebumps.
Same.
And the cadence, the delivery, where she went like almost out of body, the way she projected onto the audience, that was a call. And it was like she said when we met last week in Atlanta, what she wanted to make sure is to turn something negative into beauty, into power, to claim it. And that's what I took without ever meeting her. I knew her heart and her intentions just by that video. And that was such an impact, because when Denene first presented to me with that made such an impact on me. I was like, I had asked the publisher of Black Gold I asked if the author would read her story to me and send me an MP3. And so when I heard the author of that book, that's what made that book really breathe, because I could feel the author. I could hear her tender voice. So with Theresa, she's about power. She's about taking that stage. So I think that's what I wanted to do with this book, is to announce with pride. So for anybody young or old, this book was meant for children, but it's actually, my books are meant for adults to enjoy with their children. And that's like the Pixar effect. When you watch a Pixar movie, you ever watch an animated movie when you're like, oh my goodness, this is such a kid's movie and I gotta just endure this. I remember that with my daughter. There were certain movies where I'm like, oh, this hour and a half is taking forever. But then there's some movies where you're so into it with your child and you're sharing that. So this book, that's what I wanted it to be. The book had to, the mission for me was to project Blackness in a way that was beautiful, that was ours, that will stand the test of time, that will go across the borders of the United States, that will go across to Africa, to Europe, where everybody who is of African descent,
wherever we are,
that they will see it and feel it.
You did. I mean, it is.
Oh, thank you.
A gorgeous, gorgeous book. The cover is obvious, but there's even the end papers. Like, I'm a person, anybody who knows me, it's been on my website for years, that my favorite color is all the colors of the rainbow. And like, I'm even energized by the end papers. Now, what was your medium? It was tissue. You tell me what the medium was.
Well, basically it's everything is about acrylic paint. The wet media is acrylic, but the media that I put it on is usually colored paper. So it's a lot of colored paper. So if you look at certain pages, like even the one where there's the what you see behind me with the two girls at the in the beach, you could see the colors of the tissue paper as like, because I ripped the paper,
Yeah.
or I cut the paper. I use tissue paper. Any colors of the tissue paper, you go to the dollar store, it's right there. Pattern tissue paper. Sometimes I use colored pencil if it needs it. And I use a heat gun. That was my way of really creating those textures, because I remember talking to an illustrator once who had this book that had such rich depth. And I'm like, how did you get that? How did you get like the levels? And he was just like, I just apply a certain media, paint, and take a heat gun, and it just creates these bubbles. And then you paint over it, and then you apply more, and you just kind of build. And what I loved about it is trying to create depth of a 2D surface. Like that's the goal, because there's illustrators that I could see that level of depth. And I think that's what was lacking in those earlier works. They're beautifully rendered and painted. I'm trying to be so academic with them. Painting Frederick Douglass's face, or King, Oprah's child.
And let's not downplay the gorgeousness of your early work as well.
Thank you.
All your books are gorgeous. I just want to throw that out there, but go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
But I feel what you're saying.
But this is me. Like, this is because the thing is, doing those books, I was always looking at the James Ransoms and the Pinckneys and the Kadirs and the Colliers and even Eric Velasquez, looking at their work, and I was modeling it. And I took bits of it, but I didn't feel like it was like totally me. It wasn't me. It wasn't. Whereas this, now I'm like, I take their works, but now I'm taking bits of Aaron Douglas's work and I'm pulling it. I'm taking stuff like even from Equa Holmes, and I'm taking, because I just love her work, and I'm looking at fine artists. I'm looking at life. So for me, the work and the media that I use, it's very emotive and spirit led. Like I'm doing a book on spirituals now, and I got to match those spirituals in a way that's honest. So like the work that I do now, I'm happier. It's a lot of work. I'm in here, but the one thing I love about the work that I do now, that it's me. That's what, if the author can look at it and be happy, the publishing team can be happy and be like, and I just want them to be like, I never thought of that. And it just touches them.
Nice. And I'm asking these questions about art, not that I'm a illustrator or trying to be an illustrator, but maybe one day. But I just love the illustrator. I have so much respect for illustrators. I love the art in the picture books. And so the thought that I have, and I don't even know if you have determined what the verbiage would be to describe your new style. And is it just, do you have a new style? Because I do see a similarity between, Black Gold and You So Black, and even my Red, White, and Blue. To me, I see a similarity. But so would you say you have a new art style, or are you now just more open to just doing whatever you're inspired to do, whatever you think the project calls for?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. Well, first, I'll say we'll talk about the three books. They're vastly different. Stylistically, an approach. I approached them so different. Where Black Gold meant that intimate, unconditional love. So and it's very rich in that sense of royalty. That's why you see purples and golds, because gold, like on the color spectrum, you have the complementary colors, yellow and purple. So to me, gold and purple, they are opposites of each other. And by that, they kind of go together, because, purple is considered royalty. So when you see the rich, dark purples and those cool colors that kind of occupy Black Gold, that offset the skin and offset the gold, like that's what it called for. Much more cut paper interlocking, whereas You So Black became something that was, each page was so different in how you approach Blackness and how it's seen, like whether it's, Black is brilliance with the yellows that are in the background of the scientist, whether, the hip hop in space, where you kind of get those colors that are very celestial in a way, even, with some of the like the reds and the pinks and the magentas that are, and then with the purples as well, where My Red, White, and Blue, it's a very narrative base. So it couldn't have the level of abstraction that those two books had, where you're talking about a story between a grandfather and a grandson. So it was a little bit more story driven narrative. So to me, the looseness and I can have touches of it in there, but there was some confinement but it worked good because it showed me that, and it shows publishers and it shows prospective clients that yes, this style works in many ways, but it's still me. So I think stylistically, I like to say my voice. It's my visual voice. It's where my approach is. The fundamentals are there about composition, values, color choice, but it's just my approach now is much more fluid, which touches into me, which makes it, that's why every artist can look so different. That's why you can look at so many different artists and put them up, and you ever see when they all post, like we just had King's Holiday, you see all these artists who do their king portraits,
so different.
So different.
Yeah, in their own voice. That's really cool. Okay. All right, so back to this book.
Okay.
This is, I think I told you this before, this is my favorite spread.
Aw.
I love like you said, the celestial, the stars are all multicolored. See, I told you I love everything is multicolored. The stars are multicolored. The ponytails remind me of my ponytails when I was young and my daughters. And then I just like the words, when you so black, when you smile, and back in the day, there used to be something negative that came after that. But it's when you smile, the stars come out.
Right.
And when you so black, when you're born, the God come out. I mean, it's just, even the phrasing is so, like you said, blackity black. I love this page. What's your favorite spread in this book?
Oh my goodness. There's
I know it's an impossible question, but I had to ask it.
It's just, I think I will say Black is strong. I will put that towards the top in the sense that, as somebody who didn't have a father, and that was one of the first images that I imagined, that popped into my head, is on, a child, a boy on the shoulders of his dad, being like, on the shoulders of giants, on the shoulder, it's like again, it's a generational thing, but it's also intimate. So you kind of see, when they're looking at each other, you see the perspective that it's slightly angled. Yes. So it's slightly angled. So it's like anything that's kind of tilted a little emits action.
Okay. Yeah.
But yet, at the same time, it's tender. And at the same time, it's the child, like the boy is so proud of his dad. And at the same time, the dad is proud of his son. And that's something that, for me, not having a father, that's something I always wished and desired. But I had father figures that I really tapped into, who built me up. Like, it made me strong. So I love that page. I think I love the Obama page because it's a take on a classical illustration style, which is called it's called the Fadeaway Girl from Illustrator Coles Phillips, where you just have a color of the shape of the color, kind of like things, like figures fit in the shape of the color. So everything that you notice around, like, because again, that Black with Privilege, that page, I thought about the Obama inauguration, and that pride of that moment of seeing something, knowing that you're living in something historical, that 50 years down the road, that that's going to be his, yes. So I love that page for the design element and the fact that it's like illustration, like history in design. And I love, again, I can go through it, like Black is beautiful, Black is blessed. I love the lineup and the different shapes and sizes and ages of the women there.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I think like, the best thing is, like when I was in Atlanta and I was doing a talk with the author and there would be people there. And I love when they would say, that's my aunt so-and-so, that's my little cousin here, that's my uncle. Like they
I
see
mean, we can
themselves.
identify ourselves in this book. Like I
Yeah,
said, I saw myself in my daughters.
yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah.
that means the world to me, because creating this book was, it was stressful, because I felt like I had, like, it was my thrill as an illustrator to do something that could really be representational and uplifting of African American, of Black, just Black folks. And being somebody who struggled with identity, because I was raised by a white mother, so I wasn't exposed to Black culture as a child, only through marriage. So that was, to me, that was the powerful element that I really, when I finished this book, I felt, and hearing, Denene's words, hearing Theresa's words, hearing your words, it made me feel like I did it. Like I feel validated. I feel, not that I should have my validation through this, but for me, it was important. I felt like it was great for me.
It sounds like it was healing.
It was, because my thesis was built on Black representation. So when you do see artworks, like when you see the stuff that I posted of like the mother braiding the child's hair, that actually was an image. That was a sketch in this book that was rejected. They didn't want that one in there. So I used it for my thesis because I said it fit my thesis. They tied together. So when I finished my thesis and poured my heart into that and finished these books, and it just, I just felt like a really like a relief for myself. In 2017, I got burned out from doing the civils, the rights and the war era. So I had to take a step back because it was too heavy. It was just, and I was being redundant with color scheme, and everything was earthy, very limited colors, and you couldn't be as expressive. And I thought, there's something in me that wants to speak to the children, to the families of today. It's good to have history, but I want to uplift and tap into the beauty of children. So going into grad school, doing the work that I'm doing, that I did, I started getting those projects with You So Black, Black Gold, and even My Red, White, and Blue. And doing those projects, they just matched perfectly with my vision, because I told myself, I want to work with primarily African American authors. I want to have both genres. I'm sorry, both genders, male and female. And actually, I do want to work with authors, Black authors that are not American, and that's what I got, because Laura Abobi is from Ghana. That's why it's so spiritual, that book. It's a spirit-led book. So the authors that I'm working with now, with Cheryl Willis Hudson with Spirituals, I wanted to do a musical book, and now I'm doing Spirituals, which is another level. Gonna be working on the Gathering Table with Antoine Eddy. I'm working with a male, Black male, and there's other people I would love to work with, the Kwame Alexanders and Derek Barnes. I do. They're on my list, and I want to work with more Black authors like you, Renee Watson, new authors, seasoned authors. Like that's because I've done books with white authors on Black subject, and you can feel the difference. There's a difference. There is a difference, and
Talk about that. What's the difference that you feel when you get the manuscript?
Some of the wordage is not the same. There was one project where there was a couple lines where I was like, I don't like that. And this came, one of the lines was it was during the time of the Black Lives Matter first starting out, when Michael Brown got shot. And one of them I just didn't like, and I was like, I'm not comfortable with that. And I know these authors mean well, But I think for me, it's like I felt the difference, because the first two books that I did were with Christine King Ferris and Carol Boston Weatherford. And then I did ones for white authors. And some of them had Black subject matter, and it was just, I felt different about them. And I just felt like you can only do so much as an illustrator with the text that is before you. And they wrote great books. They are, and I love all those books because they really meant something to me, what I was trying to project with my artwork and trying to say. But that was something going forward. I wanted to work primarily with African American authors because you could feel the difference. You can feel, the words that are being said. They sound different. The word, the feeling behind them, I can feel them a little bit more, like within my spirit. And I know sometimes like the stories are better told by those who live those experiences.
Like the authorial perspective is different,
Big time. Yeah. And that's when I was talking to my daughter. She's 27. We sat and had a conversation about this. And I remember she said something so good. Wow, I wish I could remember. I love having these conversations with her because it was like, I don't know how I could say this. How do I say this? How she said it so well, but you could feel the lived experience and understanding of it through an African-American writer, an African-American subject or African-American experience. And then somebody who's non-African-American who writes what they think it feels like.
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you think they would say like, "Oh, Papa done did this," and it's like, okay? Would you really sound like that? But then if you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It reminds me
it's like you think about this book. One of the things, there's so many things that if a white person had tried to write this book, it wouldn't be in here. Like the phrase "on the black hand side," that wouldn't be in here. You know what I mean? Because that's just, they didn't play that game. Give me 5 on the black hand side. They didn't do that. So yeah.
Yeah, and it is funny because when I did my thesis, one of the subjects was about passing. I talked about passing, and the thing is, when I put that in my thesis about passing and talking about the book Passing by Larson, I understand that because passing is just, for me, it's being able to navigate in different areas. So because I was raised by my mother who was white, I talked a certain way. My hair was a certain way. I had to be a certain way because that's what she knew. So getting older, I was comfortable to navigate in non-African American settings. But the funny thing is, I felt alien in the African American settings growing up as I got older. But then, being married to my now ex, but her family was the Blackity's Black family, Pentecostal down and down and down, and to me, it was like a culture shock. But then getting to know and understand the feelings and emotions, and then really not just because I researched African American history in my teens and before I met my ex-wife, and then when you live the experience and then you're around it, I was just like, so now for me, I feel like there's like a sense that I have a better understanding of the depths of the Black, what it means, why it matters.
Yeah.
And I so the work that I do, it's just where I speak to more towards. I don't mind working with white illustrator authors, but tell one of your stories then. You know what I mean? I don't want to,
Right. I can illustrate, One of your stories. Yeah.
Right. I did like Lend a Hand was by a white author. It was poets, like I'm sorry, it was poems, but they were kind of like universal. That was
Right.
very, it
Right.
wasn't like it was a black book. It was
Mhm.
just, the beauty of that book is it was very diverse.
Right. Right.
Like, right now I don't mind just like doing black work, because that's what
Mhm.
I love. All my practice work is black. Like, it's just what I love.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, you know, the 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 maturity that I achieve at this point, through experience of what I like and where I'm comfortable working and where I don't want, where I put boundaries and limits.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
feel much more confident now in
Yeah.
that, because now I get better projects that really speak, and then they're legacy books. This You So Black, I want it to be a legacy book, like Black Gold legacy. Even My Red, White, and Blue, it's like a legacy book.
Yeah. Well, you're there, because now you're London Lad. You got this whole
Yeah.
body of work behind you, and you've got this new amazing these works that are coming out, and it's just vibrant, energetic, beautiful, blackety black style, and it's just, I'm so honored. Well, I just want to tell you, friend, I love your new work. I loved your old work. I love your new work, and I especially love this book. I know it's only January, but I feel real comfortable saying that this is going to still remain, like one of my favorite books of the whole year in December 31st. This is going to be one of my go-to books. So
Thank you.
thank you so
Thank you.
much.
And I have so much respect, and I'm a big fan of your work. And I always said, hopefully the universe aligns just right.
I'm putting that out there too. I'm putting that out there too. I can't tell you how proud I will be.
Thank you, because
All right,
I've
thank
always been
you.
a fan, and thank you so much for this time. It's been great.
Oh, no, thank you for being, no problem. Thank you for being on the Brown Bookshelf. And until next time, bye.
Bye.